Director.
Here.
John Kitchener.
Here.
Abby DiMolina.
I'm here.
Great. Stephen Welch.
I'm here.
Howard.
Yes.
Perfect. Staff members, Meg Trudell.
Here.
William Saad.
Here.
Catherine and Sarah.
Here.
Great. Just a little reminder, everyone, we're being audio and video recorded. Be careful if you're on Zoom not to share your screen. Chair will recognize participants when to speak. Please speak through the chair and mute yourself when you are not speaking. Entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Nat, seconded by Barry. I don't have to do a roll call, do I?
No.
Nope.
No.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. It was unanimous. All righty. On to the agenda. Did everyone have an opportunity to read the minutes for August 12th?
Yeah, I'll make a motion. We approve those minutes as submitted.
Second.
Great. All in favor?
Aye.
That's unanimous.
Dave, did you want to call public comment?
Oh, yep.
Just in case.
Oh,
Perfect. Yeah, I'd like to take this opportunity for public comment for those things that don't appear on our agenda. Anyone want to take advantage of that? All righty then. Thank you, Barry.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to take second dwellings and ANRs all together here. I would like to pull out one of the ANRs just to have a question answered, and that's the Woodland Limited Partnership. So I would entertain a motion on Peggy Schneider's second dwellings, Peggy Schneider at 10 West Dover Street, Annie Teasdale at 24 India Street. ANRs, we have I've got to hold that one off for our public hearing. So Richard Larrabee and Shauna at 9 Millbrook Road, Starry Nights LLC at 337 Matticat Road, John Leclerc and Ruth Hodges at 339 Matticat Road, Patricia Halstead / Town of Nantucket and Name Way and Western Ave, Eugene Polchanis at 1 Daffodil Lane, Andrew Casp and Jeannie Casp at 46 Essex Road. Entertain a motion on those, please.
All right, do you mind if we do it as two separate things?
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah, we can
Yeah,
do it.
so with the secondary dwellings, I'll make a motion. We approve the secondary dwellings with any findings or conditions as submitted through staff.
second.
All in
For
favor?
those two.
Aye.
Aye.
So I usually have the tertiaries
That's
in
okay.
there that
And
send
There
me,
isn't any.
send me astray
Then-
now.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, with the ANRs, I'll make a motion that we endorse all the ANRs that are submitted in accordance with staff recommendations.
The ones listed by the chair.
Well,
The ones
yes,
listed by the
not-
chair, yeah, the
We're
only-
holding
the-
out GERD and
That's
Woodland
correct.
Limited Partnership.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay,
I'm sorry, yes.
I'll second that then.
great. All in favor?
Aye.
All righty. So on Woodland Hills, Woodland Drive, who's representing that?
Dan, are you
Dan?
available to answer a question on that one? I know Stephen Williams not.
It's just a simple question, and a lot of it has to do with, I've had a lot of people from the public asking me what's going on here. So if you could just explain why a portion of this is going to be an unbuildable lot.
The portion in the back. So they're
Yeah.
looking at talking to abutters, anybody, if there's it's basically it's excess land, because it's LUG2 on that side. It's excess land, if they can talk to an abutter about purchasing a piece. There's
Okay.
no surprises there.
Yeah, no, and that's what we figured, but I just wanted to ask you just in case. Any board members have questions, or are we good?
Good.
Good.
Good, all right.
So I'll make a motion then that we endorse the plan as submitted in accordance with staff recommendation.
Second.
Great, all in favor?
Aye.
It's unanimous again. All righty, on to previous plans. First off is the Woodlands Hills subdivision.
Sorry, I've reordered some things if we go off the
I'm sorry, I'm going off of the,
staff report.
this, okay, I'll go off the
yeah.
staff report.
Wait a minute.
All right, I
So am I.
apologize. Okay,
So
so,
am I too, yeah.
previous plans, 6717, 6 Fairgrounds, workforce, affordable housing.
So the applicant has submitted final engineered site plans that were a requirement of the special permit for the board's endorsement. At this time, all the suggestions made by the town's consulting engineer at Pasture have been incorporated, and staff is requesting that you make the motion to accept and endorse the submitted plans as final engineered site plan required by the special permit in compliance with site plan review, and that they may be accepted late because the applicant has shown good cause. So that would be staff's recommended motion.
Questions from the board?
No, sir.
Nope. All right.
So with the motion that Megan had submitted from staff, I'll say that we'll use that as our primary motion to endorse the plan as submitted using that
No,
exact
perfect.
language.
Yep,
Second.
great. Motion made by Barry, seconded by John, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great, unanimous once again. Okay, Knobska Way, Leo,
So this is another endorsement of plans. This was for the subdivision off of Appleton, the Fitzgerald subdivision off of Appleton and Knobska. So just to comply with the conditions of the decision, the applicant has submitted plans for your review and endorsement. And this as well, consulting engineer comments have all been incorporated.
Okay, so Ed's looked at all this.
Yes.
Okay. It's been a few months, so. I'll make a motion to endorse.
Second.
motion made by Nat, seconded by Barry, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
It's unanimous. Okay, on to,
50 Brunel.
Costa Avalon LLC, 50 Burnell, Dan Malloy.
So this is another set of plans for your endorsement. Like the others before you, all suggestions made by the town's consulting engineer have been incorporated into these plans and we recommend endorsement.
Great.
I'll make a motion to endorse.
And second.
Motion made by John, seconded by Barry, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. On to Van Gilder, this is Van Gilder subdivision, 86A and 88 Old South Road, Form J releases.
So the applicant is requesting the release of 5 of the 10 buildable lots. They have installed infrastructure already, put down base for the roadway. It's been inspected by Ed Pesci, so it's staff's opinion that the release of 5 lots will still be withholding 5 is appropriate at this time and would recommend endorsing that Form J as proposed.
Great, thank you. Board members?
I'll make a motion, we endorse.
Yep. Second.
Motion made by Barry, seconded by Nat, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That's unanimous. Woodlands Hill subdivision.
So this was continued from the prior meeting, just to confirm that the number of lots referred to in the amendment were actually reflective of what was in the subdivision decision, and I was able to confirm that. So it's just an updated document for your endorsement, and we would recommend endorsement.
Great. And maybe this isn't the time, but would it be possible, or even smart and helpful for us, that when we have these situations that we ask the applicant to give us a document that tells us exactly what's changing in this modification?
I think that would be appropriate.
Yeah, I think going forward, it would be better for all of us, because to expect us to go dig up the old application to understand what's changing, it just gets difficult and confusing. So if moving forward, we could ask the applicant to just, and it can just be bullet points. What exactly is different here from what we started with? So, just a thought. Board members?
I'll make a motion to endorse.
Great.
Second.
All right, motion made by John, seconded by Barry. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Great, thank you. We're on to 32 Bunker Road, National Grid.
So the applicant is requesting a minor modification to expand the garage by just 300 square feet. This is to accommodate some new technology with the vehicles that they have stored in the garage. So for that reason, planning staff suggests that you would find this modification minor with the finding and condition outlined in the staff report.
Yep.
Great, thank you. Board members, questions?
So I'll make a motion at this point that, first of all, we find this, that it's a minor modification.
Yep.
Let's
I'll
just
second that.
vote on that if you don't mind.
Second.
Okay, motion that it's a minor modification made by Barry, seconded by Nat. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. That's unanimous.
And then I'll make a motion that we approve the changes that are submitted before us that have been vetted through staff as well too with their recommendations.
Second.
Great, motion made again by Barry, seconded by Nat. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous. We have to vote for these continuations, right?
Yeah.
So let's
Yes, and
do
there
it.
was actually one, Mr. Chair, that I don't think made the agenda, 13 and 15, Nancy Ann, that too is being continued.
Oh, it's on
Staff
there.
Oh, is it?
It's
Okay.
in the staff report.
Okay, so that's Great Harbor Yacht Club, 19, 21, and 23 Novadear Farm Road. That's the Great Harbor Tennis and Swim Center, 19 and 23 Novadear Farm Road. That's Joseph Leader and Jane Leader trustees, 64 and 62 Sankaty Road. And it's 13 and 15 Nancy Ann Lane, LLC, 13 and 15 Nancy Ann Lane.
Motion to continue those to our October 21st meeting.
Second.
Motion made by Barry, seconded by Nat. All in favor?
Aye.
Great. Now we're on to Louis Dog LLC, 16 and 18 Tomahawk Road, Don Bracken. Is Don here?
Ryan Maxwell is on.
Oh, okay.
I'm moving him over.
Okay, great.
All right, thank you.
Welcome, Ryan.
Hi, thank you. Can everybody hear me?
Yep.
Okay, so for the record, Ryan Maxwell with Bracken Engineering. This project consists of two properties, 16 and 18 Tomahawk Road, which are in the Arrowhead Drive subdivision. The applicant is looking to construct a two-bedroom apartment for employee housing on the second floor of a contractor workshop building, and the apartment use requires a special permit in the CI zoning district. This is very much in line with the original subdivision covenants, which allowed for one second floor dwelling unit per development, as long as it was used for employees, which is what we're doing. So this feels like a pretty straightforward approval, but I'll take any questions if you have them.
Great. Thank you, Ryan. Any questions from the board before I open it up to the public? This is a public hearing, correct?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Anybody from the public have a comment on this?
Hi, good afternoon. Campbell Sutton here. So I just had a small observation. So I noticed that in the plans, the two-bedroom is for like a sort of a primary and then a kid's room with two twin beds. Not that that's the way it's going to be set up, but let's say it is. So what I was thinking is in the front, they have this bit of lawn, right? Which I assume if you have two children, that would be where they would get some outdoor space. And so what I was wondering is whether it would be possible to request like a, I don't know, a split rail fence or something between the road and the lawn, just to try and keep, possible kids, balls, dogs from bolting out into the road, because it is, it is CI, so it's has big trucks and is intended to be industrially oriented. And I appreciate the lawn area, but I was just thinking that that looked potentially unsafe. So that was my only comment. See where the walkway is there? Right there. So it would sort of go from the chain link over towards the hedge.
Not a terrible thought. Is that it?
That's it.
That's it. Perfect. Board members? Thoughts here?
That's not factual information, though, is it? It's, do they act?
No, we don't know whether they're gonna have
Right,
children
right,
there or
right,
not.
right,
No,
right.
I don't think we do.
Yeah. I was just wondering
Yeah, I mean,
if there's something we
I-
don't know or.
no, I appreciate Campbell's,
the thought.
I mean, yeah, it's CI, so it's kind of a scary place to have kids, for sure.
But it's in the plans, it shows a bedroom with
yeah.
2 twin beds.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And they also mention employee and employee families.
Yeah.
So by mentioning families, there's some intention of potentially having a family, which I'm not being opposed to that. I'm just trying to address a safety concern. For even if you don't have children, you may have a dog, you may have chickens, I don't know.
They can be anywhere on the island. just-
I know they can, but it's best
They
if
can be,
they're
they can
penned
be
away
in
from the road.
everywhere, more than a short-term rental can be.
They can be anywhere.
It's true.
So could a goat.
Just so you know,
Short-term
I like, and maybe I'll bring that up on the 17th.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think it's a good call. I think that should be up to the building owner
I mean,
to show how much they value their employees.
insurance companies won't even
Instead
let
of
you have a
us
trampoline
demanding it.
anymore, so.
Yeah.
I don't know. We have fences around pools for a reason, and I think they're really good. But I don't know if we can require them to do that. We could maybe make a note
Sure.
Yeah.
in the decision.
Yeah.
Yeah, Megan, this is new territory. But, when this was approved, it was RC2, and when this all started, that's why we have to have the special permit when it was original, and I think this is a good process for housing above commercial buildings in this particular subdivision. So,
Barry?
I'd just like to hear from Megan, because she had a thought, and I just wanted to let you run with that. Or-
I would refrain from just making notes and formal decisions. I don't think that is good practice. If you want to condition it, that's fine. But I think putting notes in just may cause confusion down the line.
Got it.
I think that's fair.
yeah, and I agree. I'm just trying to be, thoughtful, I guess.
Yeah,
I mean, it's not like screening. We dealt with that with this subdivision, with the containers and all kinds of different things have come up. This is the most straightforward one we've had, I think, so.
And in all honesty, I mean, like I said, I think that, if the owner of this building is gonna house his employees there and there's children, I think it's, it's that employer's decision on what he's gonna do. And I'm not sure that, to your point, can we even? We can.
We could.
I leave it up to the building owner. Yeah, I mean, he should show how he values his employees. Shouldn't have to demand it.
Yeah, and Mr. Chairman, don't forget, this is a special permit as well, too. So if we're finding that something really odd, unusual is happening out there, I mean, we can certainly reopen it.
Yeah.
And I don't think they would want that. So it would just be I'm sure they're paying attention
Yeah.
right now to the conversations that are being had, and
I would like to applaud the applicant for having more parking than he has to have, because that's a rarity, and thank you, whoever did that. That's much appreciated. So, board members, anyone else from the public?
Motion to close the public hearing then, sir.
Second.
Motion by Barry, second by Nat. All in favor?
Aye.
Where would you like to go, gentlemen?
Mr.
It's up
Chair,
to you. Go ahead.
Make a motion to approve the request and the findings that granting of such relief is in harmony with the general purpose and intent of the bylaw, with conditions 1 and 2.
And if you could activate an
Oh,
alternate.
Oh,
as
that's
well
right,
as-
we have to, yeah, sorry.
forgot about that.
Howard, welcome.
Congratulations. You get to sit in.
Got his name. Good.
I'm getting there. I'm a slow learner, all right? Great, so you'll be voting on this.
So I made the motion. So,
Did we have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, great. Motion made by Nat, seconded by Barry. All in favor?
aye.
That's unanimous. Thank you, Howard. Sorry
Thank
to
you.
put a lot like that.
Thank you, Ryan.
Yep.
Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you.
All right, on to SDC Nantucket LLC, 86A 88 Old South Road, 3 and 4 Van Gilder Ave.
Linda's on this one too, Dave. Linda's on this one too, I didn't realize that.
First meeting of 20 this week. Yay.
Pull that mic down.
I know, short.
I didn't say that.
I did. This is the first go-around for Van Gilder, which if you've driven down Old South Road on the left, there used to be an awful lot of different landscapers and stuff in there. It's Jeff Kuchulik's subdivision, which you guys have already approved some time ago. This is the first shot across the bow of somebody going in there. They own 3 lots, but 2 lots are involved with this particular building. We have gotten through, a couple of weeks ago, we got through the HDC in like 1 meeting for the land, hardscape as well as the building. We just had to make a minor adjustment to it for the next meeting. It's a 5,800 square foot building. It is for Frito-Lay and Pepsi, owned by the same company. They are currently over in what used to be Glowackyville in a very antiquated metal building, which I believe is going to get torn down as soon as they move out. So they will own this building. It's being proposed and, well, there'll be a tenant in the building. It's being proposed by a development crew for that group. Online up there, we have Greg Saad, we have Hans Strack, and we have Joe Grillo from Hayes Engineering, who did the big packet that you guys got. I had them discuss things with Ed Pesci and start talking to him a couple of months ago, and I believe you have a letter in the file from Ed. I believe all the things have been worked out. Megan can probably talk to that better. And we are on sewer and water and the bike path. I have been contacted several times by the neighbors, who I believe Jesse is representing, answering their questions as we move through this process. And we only have 3 lights in the front. They're all downlit. I believe you got a hardscape plan or landscape plan this afternoon, which was finalized. It's still in the RC2 zone, which I know everybody's trying to get rid of, but it's still in the RC2 zone. We want to address the neighbors' concerns. I know a lot of it had to do with screening and hours. They have agreed to do the 6 to 9 during the week, which didn't seem to be as big an issue as Sundays. And it's only 6 to 6 on Sundays, because there are outlets here that require the restocking of those shelves. I know all the guys live here. On occasion, they'll ship somebody over, but almost all of them live here already in their own homes. So we've asked for the waiver of the inclusionary housing. I know in the staff recommendation, we have to have a discussion about that. As far as the waiver from the traffic study, it's the same number of trips, same number of trucks, as we're using now directly across the street in where they are at the moment on the other side of Old South Road. So it's not going to really increase anything. I'd like to just remind the neighbors that are watching that if anything goes wrong, there's too much noise or the lights are bothering them, they can always contact me, but they can always ask the planning board to reopen the special permit, and we can address it at that time. So if you have any other questions. Oh, on the rear side, I know there's an issue about the screening on the back side. We have probably over 50 trees going in this, on the perimeter. The backside at the HDC, they wanted windows because we didn't want windows back there, so there was no noise emanating towards the neighbors on the backside. But we have windows put in, but they're not operable. They're going to be enclosed on the inside because all we have is stocking shelves right on the other side of them. So they're there for cosmetic purposes, not actually functional, so there'll be no noise emanating in the back. The trash area is contained in the front right there on the screen. In an enclosure, and there isn't any trash receptacles anywhere else that would impact the neighbors. And any other questions? We do have our guys up there, the engineers up there, the architects up there, and the project managers up there.
Thank you, Linda. Board members?
I have two things. Sure. Just first of all, a comment. I'm surprised there are windows on the back, but whatever. It's because,
HDC,
and I understand.
can I
that
say?
by right, it should be what they view from the roadway, not from the back into the property.
I've had that argument, it doesn't work.
I'm sure you did. No, I'm just, again, it just caught my attention. But one thing that was cited and through staff as well too was the whole thing with inclusionary housing. Because that, for us, is always an uphill battle that we're trying to deal with. So I don't know if you can shed some light.
I would punt that up to Greg's side. I just know that the guys all live here, and this doesn't have a second floor on it. It's a trust building.
Okay.
And I don't know what to say after that, about that.
I'll be happy to address, if that's okay with everybody.
Yes.
First of all, thank you for letting me join you today, and thank you for your time. The issue of inclusionary housing came up early on, and of course, we all know Pepsi and Frito are global companies. It's very difficult for them to wrap their arms around how do we get somebody to live inside our buildings as well. It just creates a whole host of issues internally with their legal and operational. So in the end, we really felt like it was best to come in and plead our case to see if we can be waived for this requirement, just because, primarily because the operations just doesn't know how to make that fit within their corporate governance. That's it. I wish I had a more scientific answer, but it's truly that simple. And I'm sorry to say, but I just couldn't get it through their internal process.
And the building isn't constructed so we could have any living space on the second, there's no second floor.
Mr. Chair, if I can follow up.
Please.
Yeah, thank you. I guess I'm just a little surprised, especially given the global presence of both Frito-Lay and Pepsi, that there isn't some thought given toward that, and it really just becomes a blanket corporate policy, because I dare say that no matter where they're located, especially in large cities and stuff, that, you know, this isn't just a localized problem with affordable housing and trying to, you know, combat that whole litany of issues that's associated with it. So again, that large, I think maybe they need to rethink the process as well too. I'm a little bit of a challenge back to corporate America. But is there anything through you to staff? I mean, is there anything that we could request, like a donation to the Affordable Housing Trust Fund, or?
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm trying to think, how do we, because it's important, and I hate just waiving it for some type of corporate policy,
Well,
especially It's a major, it is a major issue out here, and like you said, there are times too when you're gonna have people who may be coming in off island to service things, and we don't know what the future holds, so I'm not as keen just to kind of automatically push the button and say, okay, we're good, let's go on. So I'd
And may
like
I,
to try to think if there's solutions here.
Yep, so,
It's very specific in the bylaw.
yeah, the bylaw does have, a calculation, I'm just trying to find it right now, if you're going to accept a payment in
It's
lieu
the
of,
average low of,
yeah. Let me screen share this.
I just know that all the guys that are working across the street are the same guys that are working over here, and they all do live here.
Yeah.
But if you'd like a contribution to the Affordable Housing Trust Fund, we can probably do that.
I 100% appreciate that they're good now,
Right.
but that is no guarantee. I mean, how many of those employees have been there for 10 years? All of them? Like,
Quite a
there's gotta
few.
be there's gotta be some give and take. And if you guys bring on one more employee and they come from a different Frito-Lay establishment off island, they're gonna be taking a housing unit from someone here looking for housing.
They will commute. They've had to have,
So,
they've commuted on a daily basis, so.
Listen, I think that it is the number one biggest problem we have on this island.
Oh, I know, I'm on the housing
When we
authority.
have an opportunity to create a housing unit, I think this board is shirking its responsibility in that realm.
So,
I think Howard
I
was
wanted to
first.
say this.
oh,
So
sorry.
Pepsi is a huge company. They have a very sophisticated real estate department with a bunch of lawyers there. This is not complicated for them. There's no reason if this group wants to mandate for them to do it, that they can't do it. It's just as simple as that. It can be done.
Not in that building, it's not.
But it's not built,
It's not built yet.
I mean, that's the
and-
difference.
And I think you said you own another lot over there as well, so, I'm sorry, John? and then-
Yeah, well, I just want to build on what Howard just said. You know, Mr. Chair, I'm from the corporate world way back, and for me, this is just a matter of how far up Pepsi do we want to go? And I think we should go, they needed to take it to the CEO, then they need to take it to the CEO. Because, you know, if we let this go, you said it, you know, it gets bigger, new employees, current employees retire, go somewhere else. That's not a reason for.
5,800 square foot building.
Yeah, this is a significant investment on their part, and I would say we should send it back and perhaps send it up the line for the gentleman who was on.
No, well, you know, the other thing too is that it also establishes a new threshold under which things begin to happen. So if all of a sudden we're like, well, they're a large corporation and we're gonna let that bypass, you can have other companies coming in trying to do similar things in the future, and they can cite this as an example of why we don't really need to follow through with it.
Yeah, no,
So there's something really should be taking place here.
Well, can you go back to Greg? He wanted to say something to
yes,
this.
I can, and then I'm gonna open up to the public. Greg?
Yeah, thank you very much. I obviously inadvertently misled you. This has been a very, very serious part of the discussion with both Pepsi and Frito. It did not go lightly down that path at all, I assure you. Whether you can sense my seriousness on that point or not, I hope you can. That doesn't mean that we're at a complete impasse. I can tell you that, yes, for all the folks who have mentioned about being in corporate world, we all know that the whole world has eyes on being litigious on every point. And when you mix residential with this type of use, probably more so than most uses because it is commercial like it is, then there can be some real serious questions that come up. But I understand where you're headed with this. I think that what we do is listen to your ideas and then let us regroup on our side of it and see where we go from there. I prefer that we talk about a contribution because I think that that might be more advantageous for everybody concerned. That's it. It was certainly elevated up very high.
I know Habitat is building their big complex over on Waite Drive, and they're coming to that CPC. I got an application from the Housing Trust for 10 million bucks. So I know that there's money that they need to finish that project on Waite Drive. So it could be Habitat, it could be anything.
Yeah, I mean, I would like to see it, whatever monies, I would like to see it go to actually create something that isn't already
In the pipeline,
created.
yeah.
Megan, may
Sorry,
I think she was going to
Meg?
bring that up if she already has.
Yeah, so let me screen share and I'll read it in case it gets cut off by the Zoom.
And I have gotten this waived before on several projects, so just saying.
Sorry, I can't move these guys over. Maybe Billy can, for those of you in the room. So in lieu of providing inclusionary units or employer dormitories as outlined above, an applicant may provide a monetary contribution of equivalent value to the town of Nantucket to be placed in a fund for the development of affordable housing administered by the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. The amount of such contribution shall be equivalent to the average sale price of a residential property within 5,000 square foot and 10,000 square foot lot sizes in the R5 district as recorded by Nantucket Islands Land Bank during the 1-year period prior to the approval of the special permit. This payment may be used only for the planning, development, and administration and maintenance of affordable housing. So that's what it said. I'm not prepared to answer what that dollar value is. That's going to require some research.
Well, you know, we go to court for not paying $2 million for a unit.
That's what I'm
That's not
saying.
happening.
Like, it would be cheaper to build it.
The average price is, you have to buy the property too.
Yeah.
And this is an industrial subdivision.
So
Yeah,
I do want to note, I don't know if you all recall this from last year's town meeting, duplexes are now allowed as an accessory use by right in the CI district, so long as it's in connection with commercial development. So just keep that thought.
This is-
in the
This is
back of
RC2.
Yes, CI. Well, maybe RC2, commercial, oh God, it's not CI, no.
Well,
Never
probably
mind.
not nice too,
No.
because we're trying to get rid of it.
We're getting rid of
Yeah,
RC2, which is later on in the meeting. But
So-
duplexes are allowed in
So
some
it's-
instances.
I mean, it's a tough one, but I feel strongly that we would be remiss to let this slide. I just-
Okay.
You know, we need to figure this out.
May I?
Yes, please.
I thank you. I don't want this to go completely unstated, so let me go ahead and say that this is going to be a little bit unorthodox, but remember, PepsiCo and Frito will not own this property. It's not going to come out of their pocket. It's going to come out of my pocket. I get that. No, don't worry. I'm not saying that for any reason except to say this is not going to go to them, huge dollars. So let's figure out the best approach that we can come up with. If it's building a unit there, then it's Sad Development Corporation that's going to build the unit. It changes no economics with PepsiCo and Frito. So let's try to figure this out.
Okay, I appreciate
So
it.
we're not buying another piece of property for this.
Well,
So,
Hold
can I
on,
just say
let's,
something to him for a minute? Can I?
I'm gonna let him
Yeah, yeah.
respond,
No,
and
just-
then the floor is yours.
Greg, just, can you hear me? Greg, whatever.
Yes, thank you. I'm sorry, my
No,
video.
I'm just gonna, the people that spoke earlier are involved more in the housing side of things in Nantucket than I am, but I understand the sort of the holistic look at all this. So I'm just gonna say this to you. When you build here now, especially something like this, where you've been working out of all this time was already there, like for free. Like it's just a place that got built and that's it. When you look at something today getting built from scratch, you gotta like put the thinking cap on. Like you can't just say, oh yeah, we're just gonna have a warehouse. No, it's too valuable and too complicated and expensive to build something here with a single use. So it needs to look like, it needs to look not like a warehouse. It needs to look like a building that's, can be used for more things than one thing. you know, especially where it is. And especially with the neighborhood that you're in, it's sort of been mixed use for a long time, but they're all locals there, okay? So figuring out how to get some housing up there is like the easiest thing you've probably ever done compared to dealing with the rest of it. So I think that you should think about trying to figure out a way to get some living space and rethink the way this is getting done. So there you go. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Yeah, I think Greg, well, I was going to point out that there's no Pepsi or Frito in the name of the company that's doing the development. Greg addressed that. A couple things. One, I think context is important, whether it was in the original intent or not. The context of a contribution is that it needs to be sufficient to offset the loss of opportunity for not placing housing on what is a virgin site.
Right.
And it needs to offset the fact that on another site that could, or very likely would be, of a character of workforce housing is going to have to be used, is going to have to be built out where, again, the virgin housing could have, the housing could have been put on a virgin lot. So it's kind of a twofer there, and it's very expensive. I would suggest the one thing is with respect to, if I remember the design correctly, and even without knowing the design, this is going to be, to all intents and purposes, a raised floor, because it's going to have a loading dock, so your floor height is going to be higher. It can be engineered to be structurally sound, of course it will be, but there could be, walkout basement potential here. So there's potential to go down, and there's potential to go up. These buildings, on a commercial building, will only, depending on the storage materials, will only require one exit, and it can be via elevator. They're going to need sprinklers. They have a shaft. I think the biggest issue, and where I want to go with this, is given the zone, what the underlying zoning is here, the propensity to want to create more of this type of dual-use structures there, it would behoove the applicant to, I believe, look into speaking with other lot owners and what their plans are, and trying to come up with a parking solution. Because once you put the housing in, you're going to need to have more parking. And if they could come up with some way of lot sharing or developing roadside parking as opposed to sidewalks, I think concession money could be put there. It would go a long way to alleviate parking concerns, allow the board, if they so wished, to grant waivers in the future if they knew there was street side parking that was in the pipe. And it would allow more bedrooms on each lot in these mixed-use housing scenarios. That's all.
I'm not
Thank you.
exactly sure this is going to be
Linda,
mixed use in there.
I'm sorry.
Because of where it is.
Linda,
It's
I
commercial.
didn't finish. Thank you. It's just, I guess I finished.
Yeah. All the subdivision requirements, if any of you remember, were already laid out for Jeff Kashulik when he came in, as far as the sidewalks, the drainage, all the rest of that stuff is outside of the property lines, and he has to fulfill that part for you guys before he gets everybody released. I know you just released some of them earlier, but you're still holding on to 5 or 6 of them.
No, listen, I don't think that anyone on this board thinks what we are asking or saying is easy. But what we're saying is that it is extremely important and it needs to happen.
Necessary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Necessary. Yes, John.
Well, Greg, just another view of this also, as you go back to Frito and Pepsi, is the money part of this is obviously critical. The housing part of this is critical. But from what I know of both those two brands, they normally around the world want to be good neighbors. They're the types of company that we know who their consumers are. They want to be good neighbors. And I think when you go back to them, you should take some of the comments that Mr. Lowell made about the way our island works these days, and housing is probably the single biggest part of being a good neighbor. And so When you go back to them, of course, the dollars and cents are going to be front and center, but so is the need to be a good neighbor on an island that is already critically short of affordable housing. And they have a chance to be part of the solution and not aggravate the problem. So if you could just, emphasize to them, let's be a good neighbor here to these island folk. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think this, if I may, and again, I know we're trying to get a lot in one short meeting, and I really appreciate it deeply. I don't want anybody here to think that we haven't looked at this, could have looked at it deeper. I don't know if you're aware that this is our second architectural full package design. We had it originally on 3 lots, and we did go through the whole process of trying to figure out how do we put residents inside that structure. Look, I get it. It is important to have the residential component. I hear what you're saying. And whether it's Pepsi, Frito, or SAD Development Corporation, we want to be good neighbors. And yes, I will go back and try to make the case for it. I'm going to need to regroup with my design team to see how it's going to work, see if we can still satisfy all the functionality for them, but add to what is needed for the community. So, we'll go back and sharpen our pencil and see what we can do.
Great, Greg. We would really appreciate that. I'm going to open this up to the public before we continue it.
Before you do that, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to know if there are any other issues that we have to deal with, or is this really it? Pesci's happy, everybody else is happy. Is there
So-
anything else?
David Gray has emailed me, and he's on the Zoom, so he may have some stormwater-related comments.
Okay, great.
And that would be Jeff Koschulik.
If we could bring him over.
Can I say one more thing?
Yeah, Howard.
So I don't know how long your lease is with Pepsi Frito-Lay. Maybe you could answer that, because that would lead me to suggest what the use of the building might be subsequent, and the value of having housing here for you as a landlord, leasing it to someone by having an apartment in there for the future
That's a
years.
good point.
Just gonna say,
What he just said, I said it about there.
Yeah.
Can I just add to what he just said with him? with
Are you
Greg?
done, Howard?
Yeah.
That was, no, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Greg, are you still there? You're getting a sort of a lesson in Nantucket's sort of cyclical sort of system that we have. If you look at Stop and Shop, that building was built in 2014. I guarantee you they'd love to have had that a little taller, had some office space, elevators, but they were stuck with 30 feet, and the place is one use. What you got to think about is what Howard just said is the next people that might own that someday is what he's meaning, and that's really important. But also, to add to that, what I was going to suggest is you're not going to have the employees that have a place to live right now, they're not going to live 100 years. They're going to be gone, and there's going to be new people working there that won't have a place to live. That's what you have to think about. So that's it for me. Thank you. And Howard, that was a great point. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Members of the public, comments, concerns?
Or did you have David Gray?
I will, give me a second. All right, is David over?
David is, and Erica Mooney had her hand raised for a long time, but it just came down, so.
Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't see that.
David's on.
All right, David, and then we'll see if Erica wants to come back. Welcome, David.
All righty, well, thank you, everyone. Hopefully you can hear me.
Yep.
Just a comment on the on-site stormwater only. I'm not going to comment on the rest of the development right now, but we have comments on that as well. I just need the proponents here know that they need to maintain that stormwater system in its entirety on-site. We reviewed all the documents and everything like that, and I did notice in the packet that they did not sign the maintenance agreement that was in there and the notification for maintenance. That's the only thing that really caught my eye on this is they need to sign that or acknowledge that fact that they need to maintain the drainage.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
great, but I
Mr.
think
Chairman,
in the,
I did sign it and I sent it in. I did. It probably is not in the package. But Joe, please confirm that I did sign the agreement that Mr. Gray is referring to, and I sent it back in.
It was after we filed the application.
Yes. David, I'm fully aware of it. I assure you, it has been signed, and if for some reason, as old as I am, if I am just representing it, it is purely accidental. I will sign it. We will maintain it.
All righty, Greg. Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. That's the only question I had on this so
Great.
far.
Thank you, David, and thank you, Greg. Is Erica back on?
She said,
Yes.
Erica, you're unmuted.
My hand raised for a while, but
I'm sorry.
wanted to make the same point that that Howard Matz and Nat did about this might not be Frito-Lay and Pepsi forever, and you have to build for the potential, not for who it is right there.
Great. Thank you, Erica. Sorry we made you hold your hand up for so long.
We'll be over these yellow hands coming. You'll see them in our dreams.
Anyone else up there with a hand up? Really?
No more hands are raised.
Anyone from the public? Last time to the next meeting. So,
I know Jesse's
so
here.
Greg's gonna sharpen his pencil. He's gonna come back to us. I think the only other concern we had was the amount of vegetative buffer in the back. And I do appreciate that you guys have done a lot of work. I just question whether it's enough. Any other board members share that feeling?
I do.
Yeah.
I do.
Okay, so
Did we get you the latest that we sent in with the trees every 10 feet and the additional vegetation between the trees?
we did see it. And I just, my concern is that I think that's only a 6-foot wide space, correct?
Yeah, I'm just gonna actually.
So I feel that if there was a way, when you sharpen that pencil, to widen that space and create a more dense buffer, I think it would go a long way to help kind of offset the negative effects on the neighbors.
Yeah, it's without going down the path. If there's one thing I know for sure, there are some standards that we have hit the minimum for size on the inside of the building, space that is available. We have pushed this to the limit in that point. I will tell you, I'd be better off. I think we'd have more success beefing up the vegetation in the areas that are wider already designed than to try to redesign the building. Because what you're talking about is shrinking the building down to make a deeper buffer. And we're at the absolute best we can do right now for the site that we've got.
And we did, just so you know, in the front where the bays are, where the trucks go down and into the building, we are right at the limit of where they can maneuver in there.
Okay. Well, if you could look at it and figure a way to make it a little denser in there, I think it would be helpful.
I hear you.
Do you have a
I will.
Yeah, just Greg, keep in mind too, we're coastal environment, Nantucket. American holly is a beautiful specimen plant. It requires a lot of attention and certain times of the season, and its habit is to want to outgrow the space. If it's of sufficient size to create the visual mitigation you're looking for, it's going to want to outgrow the space in the first 3 years very quickly. So I would suggest, I don't want to get into landscape design plant selections at the table, but it needs to be a more appropriate selection. There's cheaper plants that can do the job as well, if not better, and they'll last a lot longer.
I'll just call Tom Hanlon, who's across the street.
I'll get on that for sure. Thanks for that advice.
Great. Thank you, Greg. Thank you for being amenable to our requests, and we'll see you next meeting.
But that's all we have to do. Those are the two things we have to deal with. No other concerns?
Just two tiny things.
Yeah, right now, I think that's it.
I know Jessie was here for the neighbors.
You're getting
but
off easy. Oh, is Jessie here?
She was representing the neighbors. I've been in
great.
contact with all the
Hey,
neighbors.
Jessie. Welcome.
Hi, everyone. I'm back. I just wanted to say I've been in touch with Linda and the neighbors are working, I think, through any issues. Certainly they would be in favor of, I agree, as increasing that buffer along the rear. Again, maybe adding more evergreen as opposed to, so there's a lot of deciduous trees, I think, in the plan, but adding some more evergreen in between, as sort of being the buffer on a year-round basis would be appreciated. But otherwise, I think there's been a responsiveness and, and the neighborhood is, working. They understand it's going to be a commercial use, but sort of trying to mitigate the impacts as much as possible. And they appreciate what's been done thus far.
Great. Thank you, Jesse.
Yep.
Make a motion then at this point, we continue to October 21st?
Great.
I don't
All
hear
in
anything
favor?
else. Aye.
Aye. Unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, Greg.
Thank you.
Okay, the Gurds have been patient
Yeah.
through this.
Yes, they
We
have.
appreciate it. Albert Gurd, Carol Gurd, 10 South Pasture, Art Gasparo.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Gasparo, Nantucket Engineering. I'm here for Mr. and Mrs. Gurd, who are also here, and we're before you with a request for a special permit for a rear lot subdivision. And we've read the staff report and the recommendations and agree with the proposed conditions. We understand that the property line that you see there is a little bit irregular, and I would just tell you that it's shaped so that we can meet the setbacks as well as there's existing septic systems that we didn't want to show on the plan that's going to be recorded, but that's the reason for sort of the zig and zag, if you will.
Yeah.
Got it?
Yep, got it.
Perfect. Questions from the board? Do I need to appoint someone on this?
Yes.
Yes, if
Yes.
you can activate an alternate, please.
Miss Abby, is she with us still? Abby?
There she is.
I'm here.
No, you're going to be voting on this.
Okay.
Great. Questions from the board?
Nothing.
No.
Motion.
Public hearing.
Oh, I was just gonna say a motion to close.
No, no.
Oh,
Oh,
gotta wait.
no.
We gotta
Wait a
open it
minute.
first.
Oh, all right, I thought, yeah, never mind.
Anyone in the public have comments on this application? Anybody online?
Now you can go, big
Now
guy.
you can go.
Jeez.
Now go for it.
Motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
All right, motion made by Nat, seconded by Barry. I'm gonna have to do a roll call on this one. Nat,
Aye.
Barry,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Abby,
Aye.
and I'm an aye as well.
Thank you.
Oh, no, that's just the public hearing.
That's,
As for the merits,
that's the merits. I'll make a motion at this point that we approve the special permit for rear lot subdivision as submitted with the conditions and findings that have been outlined by staff.
Second.
great. Motion made by Barry, seconded by Nat. Barry,
Aye.
Nat,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Abby,
Aye.
and I'm an aye as well.
There we have it.
There you go. We got to
Thank you.
circle back.
We gotta go back to the end.
Oh, the
Yep,
A&R,
and go
right.
back to the A&R. And I don't need Abby for that, correct?
No.
No, okay.
So I'll make a motion at this point that we endorse the A&R with the appropriate notations as made by staff with this.
Second.
Great. Motion made by by Barry, yeah, seconded by John. All in favor?
Aye.
Great. Okay, we are, thanks for staying, Gertz.
Thank you.
Think so.
Okay, we are on to GJ Smith Inc., Bunker Road, Dan Malloy.
Good afternoon, Dan Malloy, Site Design Engineering for the applicants. At the last hearing, we went through the project, what's it proposed to be, what's going on over there, gave everybody an update. The board has some questions on what's going on, where things need to go, treatments and so forth. So we've revised the plan and we'll come before you tonight to present the changes. So one of the comments was the surface treatment under the vehicle storage area. So we've reconfigured the lot, and we're now paving, vehicle storage area will now be paved, and that's on the left side of the property. And that was a question the board had in the surface treatment. So that will be paved. All of the runoff from that area will go to the stormwater system, which is equipped and set up to treat that runoff. So that was one of the comments. As part of the change, the storage containers have moved to the right. As I said, the vehicle storage on the left, storage containers on the right, driveway down the middle. There was a question to do with security fencing, gates and access and security lighting. Both, I believe the board had the comment as well as the police chief. And the site is required by state law to be fenced. It's fenced now. It's our full intention to keep it fenced, to keep it secure as required. And also add what I would say is the minimum level of lighting necessary to be dark sky compliant, but still comply with the state law to have some lighting on site. Being with the airport facility next door, we're not looking to overly light this facility, just the minimum that will be acceptable. And the other questions to do on property were locations of the water main. We're working with the Wanacom Water Company right now to work with them to relocate the water main around the buildings, either through, around, or in some way around them. And I believe those were the comments the board had at the last meeting.
Great, thank you, Dan. So my concern here is, because I think we're on the right path for the most part, is the letter that we received from the Airport Commission. And we can put that up on the screen?
The email from.
From NOAA, yeah. Asking us not to move forward until they've resolved some issues with the tenant.
Just bear with me a moment
Okay.
while I find that.
Dave, can I make a comment while we're waiting?
Yes.
So I think my comment was just, maybe it's similar to what is going to be in the email, but just that I know, Dan, you mentioned that you guys were working with the water. Do you have any estimate of like how much that would cost? Just because I think that probably is a big piece of relocating a water main. Is that going to be cost prohibitive or not? We probably would want to know that prior to rendering any decision.
Was that a cost question that was asked?
I think.
Yeah, I was just asking if
Well,
you guys had any estimate of the water company.
I think she wants to know if you all realize what the cost is.
Yes, so we're fully much aware of the cost relocated. That would be a burden on the applicant to
Yeah.
do so. Absolutely.
Was that, we got that right, Abby? That was your question?
Yes, that's correct. Thank you.
Great, thank you. So, yeah, there it is. So that's my issue here, is that when another town department asks us to hold off, I think that it is our responsibility to do that, because they would do that for a good reason. So I don't know how the rest of the board members feel, but, and I don't know if Arthur's in a position to speak to this at all or not. No, okay. Is that I think we should honor the request of another town department. And so if you guys get that squared away and then come back to us, I think that we'll be in a good place, unless there's some board member that disagrees with me. No.
Can I ask if there's any other additional information the board's looking for aside from the airport commission satisfaction?
I think we're good. I think we're good with the fencing. We're good with the site plan. I think that the other discussion is going to be about the use of the containers, what materials are stored there, and basically what the use of those containers are and what the materials are stored there is going to be part of the condition of our approval. So, Meg?
Sorry, I was just typing an email.
What have we restricted similar similar situations too, as far as what can be stored in the
Oh,
containers and.
So, I actually had a conversation with the applicant about this, and
Okay.
I know that he expressed that he would be amenable to restricting any hazardous materials
Yep.
being stored anywhere on site, so I would strongly suggest that you condition that.
Yeah, so that would be part of our conditions.
Yeah. Can't have a list of names, but that way
Yeah.
it covers a lot. So
Yeah, I
that's
mean,
good.
I don't want a list of names, but we're just gonna
Yeah.
restrict, you know,
That's
that
good.
there's no hazardous chemicals or products stored there at all.
That's fine, we don't have a problem with that.
Okay. Any other issues that any board member sees with this application?
Can I make one comment? Mr.
Yes.
Chairman? On that, on the hazardous materials, you might want to reference they're highly defined in the commercial building code. So you could literally reference hazardous materials, Group H, as listed in the International Building Code, and that solves that problem. The only concern I had is if there were going to be any type of solvents or other materials that don't qualify for hazardous, having sand or gravel underneath the containers without having some type of a lip that pitches towards the drain that goes maybe 6 or 8 inches under the front where the doors operate. If that is just if the tarmac ends at the seam, you've got nothing to catch any spillage. So for me, it depends, whether that point is relevant or not depends on what's stored in them. If there's liquids and they're liquids that you don't want potentially seeping down into the water table or eventually seeping into the water table, extending that tarmac under on the grade with the pitch to the stormwater management system seems to me to be beneficial. It may be beneficial anyways. It's 6 or 8 inches under the lip of those things. But that was the only comment I had. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Stephen. So yeah, so I think we're on track. You guys just need to figure it out with the airport commission. Please refrain from doing any work out there until that happens. I would appreciate that.
Dave, I had a question.
Yes,
It was actually what you were going to say. Is it still under the stop work order? And I was just asking, Dan, is there no work happening until the theoretical approval would come through, or do you know the timeframe for that?
until our approval comes
So
through.
the building department has issued a stop work order.
Yes,
So no construction activity can commence on the site at this time until the building department is satisfied, which would involve the planning board.
yeah,
Yeah, I can tell you the building commissioner, without him being present, I would say he would be very likely to consider that resolved once the permit is issued by the planning board.
I think so. So, yeah, so there we are. I mean, I'm sorry, I know it's painful, but I think that with that letter from Noah, really our hands are tied.
Okay.
Okay. It's a public hearing on this, right? Anybody in the public comments? Campbell?
I just had a thought came to mind when you said hazardous. I thought combustible as well. Maybe they go sort of hand in hand, but they may not.
Yep, no, good point. Thank you. Right, I'd entertain a motion.
Motion to continue?
Second to the 21st of October.
Great.
October 21st, sorry.
Motion made by Barry, I'm sorry, by Nat, seconded by Barry. All in favor?
Aye.
Great.
Thank you.
We'll see you guys next
Thank you, Dan.
month.
Thank you, Jeff. Well, the air conditioning's working.
Yeah, you think?
You know,
Start dressing
You know
up
what, we
for-
gotta stall out, guys. It's still light out. We cannot leave this
Our
building.
meetings aren't as hot as the ZBA meeting.
Okay, go slow.
Fill you guys in on.
Go slow.
I have quite a few things.
Yeah, well, Mr. Chairman, where's the pizza that's supposed to be here that you're supposed to bring to keep us?
Guys,
Didn't we have a
it's
motion
been
on
an
that?
hour and
thought we
15
did. Yeah,
minutes, all
yeah.
right?
So,
There's still quite a handful of things.
Yes.
Yeah,
I need
let's
to
do
kind
it.
of fill you all in
Good.
on, if that's okay.
Please.
All right. So just a quick verbal update of what's going on with the master plan. Today was the first round of in-person interviews with Barrett Planning Group's team. They were on island conducting a series of in-person interviews. This will be followed up with a series of virtual interviews, I believe maybe next week, that's scheduled, the first round of that. Our staff is also finalizing with Barrett Planning Group a community engagement process, so that should be ready for your disbursement soon. So as soon as we have a final draft of that, I will get that sent along.
I heard it was a
post
good
on the
meeting. I
website.
think I talked to Emily and she said, we were all talkers, so.
Oh, wonderful.
So some people just couldn't get a word in edgewise.
I had similar feedback from the consulting team,
Yeah.
so they thought it was very great and productive
Yeah.
conversation there. So if anyone doesn't have any questions, that's the update on the master plan.
Great.
So you all
This is
need to-
this is my fault because I need to have a discussion with someone I haven't had yet.
Oh.
So I will do that this week. I apologize.
Okay, I
All right.
will let Leah know.
Yeah.
So then the next thing we have that I will go through with you is every year around this time, staff prepares a list of concept changes to be moved forward at the annual town meeting. So for those listening or for those here that may not be familiar with the exact timeline and process, we like to work on this now. Advertising usually goes out right after the holidays wrap up. We have our first round of public hearings. So it's really critical to get direction at the staff level on what initiatives are important to move forward and what, we can maybe continue to work on and maybe table for next year. So I apologize, this was not included in the packet. I did just send this list to you late this afternoon. I had one final update based on a meeting I had with Lauren Sinatra this morning. So as of right now, we have anything italicized, I have earmarked as a potential, just because we are, remember, moving forward with a master plan update, which may influence the outcome specifically of some of these proposed map changes. So, we're dealing with that. And also that's very time consuming at the staff level as well. So we have both of those things to consider. So there's a large R1 area in the Hooper Farm, Cartwright, Shady Maple, Allen's First, Second Way that I think, should eventually move to R5 or R5 Limited. But just keep in mind, this is italicized because it is heavy outreach and research that'll need to be done here to move this initiative forward. But I do want that to be on your radar.
There's only a small part that's R1 there now.
Oh, it's pretty big.
Is it?
Yeah, it's
Because
pretty
it goes down First Way, but doesn't it?
Here, I
Okay.
can pull up the map.
It's on the right side.
significant.
I know that much. but-
Yep. RC2 to possibly CTEC or R5, there's 3 final properties over in the Appleton area that need to come out of RC2 as part of the RC2 phase out. So I will be in touch with all of those property owners. I had initial conversations about a year ago with some of the property owners over in the Rosebud, Hinsdale, Forest Ave. At that time last year, we collectively agreed to press pause, but knew that initiative would be moving forward. So I will be circling back with those folks as well.
They may need like a personal meeting kind of
They
situation.
may, yeah. I
Okay,
had several members of that
because-
family all meet with me in the
Yeah.
conference room last
Who is
year.
it?
Yeah. Holgate's.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Sales over down on Washington Street, that was a holdover actually from 2 years ago. They needed to clean up some permitting, so they're ready to get out of, I believe they're RC.
It's RC down there, I
RC
think.
right now, yeah, so
Yeah.
they'll be coming out of that. 43 Novadear Farm Road, also extending to Rosemary Teasdale, that's again part of the RC2 phase out. 43 Novadear Farm Road, we have been in touch with that property owner, but we have a little bit more outreach to do over here. R40 to ROH, this is just a cleanup for one of the properties that the land bank owns a portion of.
The Pocket Park.
Yeah, the Pocket Park, but the actual owner still owns a portion of that property, and the whole thing moved to R40, and it's causing some significant issues for them, trying to get some
Oh,
permits for a
the
garage,
place with
so-
the brick drive
Yeah.
parking area thing.
Yep, so
Okay.
it was
All
done,
right.
I think
'Cause that's-
unintentionally back around 2015,
Because
2016.
the even numbers are on the right.
Yeah.
So that's weird. That's why I
Yeah.
was like, what is that, Murray's?
So it's actually
So I
it's,
couldn't
the
figure out
Pocket
what she was
Park is
talking
zero
about.
fare, but I believe the affected property has a
Main
Main
Street.
Street
Yeah.
address.
Yeah, no, I got you.
Yeah,
Yep.
so that is just
Okay.
a cleanup. Some bylaw changes to consider would be something with pickleball courts. We're hearing a lot of feedback in the community that they tend to be a bit of a nuisance from the noise perspective. So we should talk about that in more detail about what kind of guardrails we may want to put in place with that, whether it's prohibiting it in certain districts or an increase of setbacks. I'm not sure what would be most appropriate.
Are you talking about private property?
Yes.
Yeah.
So not
No.
recreational clubs.
Yeah.
We'd want
I was
to,
gonna say,
yeah.
you're talking about lug 2, lug 3 compoundy places that have all kinds of stuff.
And they can have it,
They
I
can.
think, with
Yeah.
a increased setback, but I
May
think
wanna
the smaller
consider
residential districts, I mean,
I mean,
you're inviting nightmares.
This is new housekeeping-y because of outdoor living.
Yeah,
I mean, there's a
and-
lot, there's
Now,
gonna be
you
more
better hurry up and
stuff.
put in your pickleball courts, all I
No,
gotta
I-
say.
I want a
we
pool.
have a definition broadly for game courts,
Yeah.
but it doesn't specify, and is there a substantial difference between a basketball court and a tennis court and a pickleball court? So, we may want to
There you
start
go.
segmenting those things out.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair,
Like pool size. That one's just for you. Yes, sir.
on the pickleball court, to just throw in a little bit of information from another side of the fence, we spend a considerable amount of time at the HDC talking, almost nearly as much time as talking about pools. And it's always about
Really?
noise. Pickleball isn't like tennis. It is got a very specific drill into your mind sound to it because of the ball and the paddles that are used.
Yeah.
So I would just suggest I certainly would be appreciative if there was a bylaw. And I think the only thing I wanted to add to that is that it may be meaningful to add a requirement that the fencing have some type, they have hanging sound attenuation blankets that are outdoor rated and so on and so forth. So I think that might be an avenue that we look at, being that planning board does work on noise control, not the noise bylaw too, but uses and the noises they have. So I wanted to mention that might be an avenue.
I think the hope is that we allow them in places where the noise isn't an issue.
What about time? I mean, it's about 6.
Is that Abby, I heard?
I think it needs to override the local, the noise bylaw. That would be something to think about.
Abby?
Yes, I was just going to add, I think Stephen brought up a good point. This is something that not just our community, like we can look to see a lot of communities have been struggling with pickleball courts and the noise. And so we might be able to get some good ideas to see how some other communities might have dealt with it. Because I think Stephen's idea of having some sort of, bylaw, something specific to it would be really helpful. And I've seen it in some communities in state of New York, also state of Mass. Just we might want to think about that, where they've had to deal with the same thing. So we can crib ideas, if you will.
Great, thank you. Yeah, there was a great article in, was that Cape Cod Times or something, about this woman who basically just can't sell her house because it's next to a pickleball court.
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's brutal.
Should be able to sell it here.
I don't know.
Yes, maybe.
So this next request actually came out of a conversation I had with our housing director. Our workforce housing community bylaw requires that 10% of the rental units be 3-bedroom. And I think, when that was initially created, it was modeled after 40B language. There are some financing implications depending on the funding source for development where that may inadvertently be true anyway, but at the same time, it's kind of holding things up where 1 and 2-bedroom units are really what are in demand. So to require 10% B3 they're finding to be a little bit too prohibitive.
So does that get redistributed into the other bedrooms?
Yeah, so it would be up to, we could, get creative with it, maybe require a certain amount of 2-bedrooms, if you wanted to attack it that way, or let it solely be, up to the developer. The main requirement is 25% have to be shy list eligible, but also the 80% AMI income bracket. So that is a request from her. I had a meeting with our energy coordinator today. I don't know if you all recall the presentation the WPI kids gave last year, and implementing a solar energy section of the bylaw is something that they recommended, and I know the board was supportive of it at that time. So just really kind of fine tuning the definitions of roof array versus ground array, or accessory use versus principal use, setbacks, that sort of thing, and is really what the intent is there. Cottage colony bylaw and height bylaw are two bylaws that I've been very involved with, working at the staff level with work groups. I have these italicized because they both, as we're going through the process, are finding it, there's a
not
lot
finished.
more involved
Yeah.
than simply crafting some language. And
Yeah.
I think it's really important, wherever we end up with both of these, that it's supported by the community in addition to the board. So that's why those are italicized.
Yeah, and I appreciate you doing that, and I want to just add, well, no, I don't want to add something that's not new, but it's not on this list. You just tell me when to do that.
Oh, yeah. Let me,
So, go ahead,
I
sorry.
guess we just have one quick technical amendment, and those are just typo E related things that can't just be fixed without a vote at town meeting. And other than that, open to suggestions from the board.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, is that okay if I say
Yeah,
something now?
please.
Okay, VR, we gotta fix VR.
Okay.
I know we've talked about it, and we just sort of, okay. So with our conversation about the height, ground cover, bonus, basements, all these little pieces we're talking about with Steve and Val and myself and Joe. The VR thing is something I think is time to just, it's pretty easy to fix. It's the math to get to 12.5% instead of 10, like our 20 is. How do we do it though? Like if it's, let's say, for example, it's all one-story development that's on that VR lot. They should be able to be at 12.5 because there's no second floors. So the only thing with this, because we have more VR out there now, and that issue is gonna end up coming up, especially if the lots are small, where they've kind of run out of ground cover and they really they don't really have a lot because it's low buildings. That's where that district came from. It started out at Ahab area and then it went to Nantucket. Then we put the special permit thing in for the pool. But we've discussed trying to figure out how to get the lots that have small houses, because it gobbles up the ground cover when the house is low, figuring out a calculation to get them no more than our 20, which is the same lot. That's the reason for the 12.5. So that's a mathematical, solution, but there's a solution somewhere to fix that.
So you're suggesting maybe look at a floor area ratio approach in that district instead of maybe simply.
Yes, you can't just be, you're at your ground cover, because it doesn't make any sense because the houses are low. You're trying to have the lower house, but yet you're taking away 2.5% ground cover from those lots. It doesn't make sense to do that. That's all I'm trying to say. And I didn't know, what was the other thing I was gonna talk about? Oh, never mind. I can't remember it now, but that's fine. That's good. I mean, the bonus issue with housing, we talked about this when we did the second tertiary, the tertiary lot articles, which we've now got into. I think it's in everything now, right? You can put a second covenant in every district except our 10 and our 5, I think.
I think so.
Yeah,
No, you can in R10, I believe.
you can? I can't
so,
remember if
yeah.
we did that or
Yeah,
not. It has to be
you can.
15,000 square
Yes,
feet though.
yes.
Okay, so, and again, this might not be ready for this year, but we're 10 years behind with all this stuff, so I hate when we wait. Is if the lot is already developed and has a structure on it that is, let's just say, in the wrong location, and it's bigger than what it should have been if it was new, a bonus to be given if there's covenants, to get them to fit, to make it be reasonable. You know what I mean? There's nothing worse than having a lot that like can't really have a tertiary because the primary's too big and they have the land, but the ground cover is blocking them from it, right? I don't know what that bonus should be. Should it be 1% of whatever that district is? You know, like a lug 1, 7, so they get to go to 8. You'd never notice it. It would be unnoticed, but what number do we go to? I think this is something we should be talking about. This only is for covenant construction issues, not for just anybody doing a second dwelling or a tertiary. I'm talking about when it's restricted as a covenant. Because these are things that we're gonna end up dealing with. Somebody else is gonna bring it up if we don't, because it's probably already happened a bunch of times. So, anyway, that's it for me.
I got one, Mr. Chair. You're gonna love it.
We're gonna finally allow solar panels on the front of houses
Or maybe not.
in town.
You know, Nat got me thinking about something, which I've been thinking about for a long time. And I think the most important part of it is it's not anyone's fault. We're 10 years behind.
Yep, we are.
And I've been thinking about this for a while. I think maybe we won't do this, but I think it's worthy of a discussion at the planning board level to consider the concept of taking one on the chin. In this area, residential essential zone, res. And what that is, think about this just for a minute. I just did some back of the napkin math. 50,000 people are here in the summer. It's more. Take 25% of that. That's 12,500 people. When I talk to people about how many times they go to the grocery store, some people say 2 times, some people say 4 times, some people say 6 times. Let's just make it 2. That's 25,000 one-way trips every week to go to the grocery store. Add half of that for people going back home. That's another 12.5. So basically you got almost 40,000 trips to the grocery stores. So that's the backdrop. The concept is, what if there were zones, which I'm not suggesting we're going to do in 1 year or even in 3 years, but begin the discussion for the 10-year or the 15-year mark, where you would be able to have a country store. And I'm not talking about a box store that's hiding in a oversized residential design, but a country store where you could go if you lived in Tom Nevers, or you were halfway out, you were coming in the Milestone Road, you could actually stop there. It's the land uses we have and the ownership, the particular ownership of the land along our thoroughfares may not lend itself to this solution in all areas, like Nantucket. I don't see the Land Bank or the Conservation Foundation giving up land so we could have a country store halfway to Nantucket. But I just wonder, I've thought about it for 20 years, and I figured this would be the opportunity just to throw it out there, because it's so darn early that we needed something to kind of fill the time.
Need another Cumbies.
Did you see how many sets of plans we have to sign over there? We could be here till midnight.
So that was the idea, residential essential zone, and whether the community would even support something like that. And if they did, then the work would begin to kind of formulate what it would look like. And I understand that many people need something, a line in the sand in order to respond to. So it's an iterative process, but I don't know, I think it's worthwhile to kind of think about it at least. Certainly not for Meg's list for
They'll never make
next
money.
town
That's the
meeting.
problem.
I was just gonna say, how in the world? would the economics
Make a
work?
dime. It would have to be like a Peapod Stop and
Steven's
Shop
gonna
store.
subsidize them.
Right.
Frito-Lay.
Give them a liquor
Pepsi.
license, they'll make money.
There you go.
I get what you mean,
But-
though.
No, it's not a terrible idea, I just don't know that we could ever get it implemented.
How many gas stations did Nantucket have in 1950? Like 12? There was one in Nantucket,
Yeah.
one in Sconset.
Yeah.
It was,
But you
the
imagine,
Rose and Crown had gas pumps out in front of it.
imagine how successful they'd be now.
Wow. It's
Not the gas station.
Oh, gosh.
Oh, okay. Just one thing, Steve, there's been a few, for the number of years I've been on this board, there's been a few attempts to try those things in
the
other
development.
areas.
In the development, it has been.
I have the neighborhoods have been totally resistant about it. It's fine if it's somewhere else, but when it comes to things like being in their general vicinity of a neighborhood and you start talking about, how many parking spaces are gonna have to be consumed by, even if you're talking something as modest as a Cumberland Farms. Okay? How
Or
many
more
parking-
modest,
Pardon?
or more modest.
Or even more modest,
Look
but.
at Belvedere Farm Road.
Right, but there is
Mini
a
comes.
certain threshold
comes.
where an owner is going to want to have, to be able to have display and marketing and all that stuff, so.
None of that's lost on me.
Pardon?
None of that is lost on me.
Yeah, so, I mean, it's just, when it boils right down to it, I can remember a few that I've sat on, and granted, there have only been a few. But that's why you don't see more of them, because the neighborhoods have been adamant about not wanting those kind of things. It's fine if it's somewhere else, but not in their neighborhood.
And with the cost of dirt here, I mean, what numbers you have to turn to justify that?
But-
And if we restrict them to very small footprint, I think it'll be very difficult.
But the idea of doing delivery service or back to the Peapod concept or an additional market out here, which we've tried to vet before, that would do those kind of services, maybe that's where we need to focus our attention on to at this point.
Yeah, and so the intention was to start having this type of discussion at the planning board level, again, putting a line out there that people can say, hey, wait a minute, I don't like that idea, but I think this. That's the exercise I'm trying to initiate.
No, I appreciate that.
Yeah, the other thing too is the numbers you floated around, I realize are very abstract numbers with maybe, I don't know if this would be kind of a concept to talk with Mike about as well too, to gather some data.
Yeah.
But I'm really afraid when you put that out there, there's the next soundbite for the newspaper.
They never write me up in the newspaper, you're safe, Barry.
They're watching.
Yeah.
John,
Or
I'm
in
gonna
the
go to Meg and then
community,
come back to you.
No,
Anyways,
I was
sorry.
just gonna ask if anyone had anything they felt strongly that needed to be added to the list for this upcoming town meeting, just knowing what priorities I've already gone over, dealing with master plan among other things, so if there's none, I think we can. Oh, I'm sorry, John, I didn't know you had one. I'm so sorry.
I've been
I'm
involved
so
by
sorry.
Steve and the grocery stuff. So,
Monomoy Shopping Center.
No, I'm thinking about traffic and number of trips, and unfortunately, I don't have the numbers that's there. But I do think, as, Mr. Rector is often telling us, this is not about long-term planning, on here or anything, but one of those things. Shouldn't we be the catalyst for moving the inspection station from Office Road to somewhere else where it doesn't cause major traffic jams, accidents with EVs?
Nobody wants to let people park on the side of the road.
One.
That's the problem.
But, now that Penske owns it, maybe there is a way to just take that, the inspection piece of it and put it somewhere else, wherever we can find a place. And just get, we all know what that place looks like. At 6
John.
a.m. in the morning.
When I worked in a Sunoco station off Island till 1987 in the winter, do you know that the sticker for your car hasn't gone up in like 35 years? Still the same price.
Maybe we have, maybe
Another thing that has
maybe the
no
sticker price
way to
in
make
Nantucket
money
isn't
with.
35, maybe it's 45.
I don't understand why,
Oh,
but
boy,
it hasn't.
you're gonna get in trouble now.
I think,
No, because
I hear you. I think that
that is sidetracked.
one of the
I do
things,
think it's a serious issue.
yeah,
Problem is it's not
It's-
a money-making.
it's an
proposition.
ancillary thing. They're stuck with it because there's no one to do it.
Yeah.
And you can't get big trucks done here without spending the company that comes. I don't even want to tell you what they charge.
All I'm saying
It's
is, I
insanity,
think
but
it should be similar to Stephen's point. This
Yeah.
is something that we should start to look at,
Yeah.
not for this time.
what's gonna end up happening, John, you're doing great, just so you know. But I just wanna give you what's gonna end up happening with this. Caretakers, okay,
They already did.
are going to get their clients vehicles, they're all in garages, sitting there with their little battery warmers on them. I see this stuff, just so you know. And they're gonna get their stickers reset for the off-season. If you have a 6 right now, those people are gonna bring that car to the Ford garage in January and get it to be a 1. And pay, that's what they're gonna do, a little at a time.
Well, I would agree with
Yeah,
that,
they can.
except
You pay,
the
yeah, you
problem-
pay, so what if it costs you another 30?
No, but there's a weird state law that.
No, it's the other way around. No, if you do it ahead.
Early.
Early.
Oh, if you do it
So
early.
Early, you can
my
do it.
six
It's the
in
other way around.
2023
That, you
isn't
can
gonna
do
out.
that. It's
You
when
guys,
the,
we're getting so
we're
far
off the
off
scope, out of the
topic
scope.
Back onto
from the
original.
ATM
I didn't bring up a
zoning
gas
bylaw
station in
changes.
Nantucket
We
like
gotta
the
reel
guys.
this back in.
I would
All right.
only say, I
So-
would like to see this on the same list. as the
And I appreciate that.
It's just-
So let's move on. How about we move on to our 2025 schedule?
Yes,
Yeah,
that's
let's
wonderful.
go.
Okay, so that's more of an FYI. I
But
do
that's
need
just-
to,
Let's go to short-term planning.
I do need to submit this to Erica and Robin just to confirm availability for NCTV and for the room, but I just wanted to have you all
So,
vote to move that forward.
can I ask, I wanna ask about the meetings for a second.
Okay.
Okay? The trailer, you know, the beautiful trailer.
Yep.
It is a nice place to have the commission meetings, okay? If this room is not available, like during, because second Monday of the month has been the same for, since we were in this cafeteria at Catherine, wasn't it? I think so. No, you're old. You just had a birthday. You're a little older than I am. So anyway, if that's the secondary, is there a time where there's a conflict and Erica can't give us this and we could go there for planning board, or there hasn't been one so
There
far?
hasn't been one, because we were
So it
Zoom
works.
for a while. It's been working. The
Okay.
only one that may potentially be a conflict is the October meeting. So, you know, we've shifted NP and EDC back to sometimes fall on the 4th. It's not consistently the 3rd,
Yeah.
because what
Yeah, no,
we
that's
were
a good
finding at
idea
the
that we
staff
did that.
level, It's
No.
so difficult
I like
sometimes to wrap up planning board and quick come in Tuesday
No,
morning
that's
and
the right
switch
thing to
gears.
do.
So
Yeah.
when we're able to, we separate and give a week in between, and that I think is better for you as board members as well, serving on both. So sometimes when things fall with a holiday weekend in the mix, it can get tricky, so I'll keep that in mind. If there's a Monday that's not available, we'll relocate to the trailer.
Yeah. And I just want to throw that in, is I think that's a good,
Yeah.
it is nice, but this is better for this meeting.
meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
there is the second floor as well, too, the emergency operations center.
I don't think,
That it's set up,
is it?
it's set up for the same environment. Yeah.
That's
It's
not up to
used
us,
as
though.
frequently.
We haven't not had this room.
But this is ideal.
Yeah.
This is ideal.
Yeah, I
not-
think
not
they
just
try and
Thursday.
accommodate, you know, the regulatory boards first and.
Yeah.
Agreed, agreed.
And my little idea about Zoom in the winter, I know that's probably fallen out the window, but it's working. 4 PM is a killer for me, but it's the right thing for everybody else. And that's what we should be doing. I understand that as well. I'm just saying. So, anyway,
All right. So
thank you
we'll-
very much.
Oh, you're
Thank you
welcome.
for all
So
this.
we'll move that along to make sure the availability, and we'll let you know if there's any changes. And then the final thing is we have this notice that the planning board is a special meeting Monday, the 21st. That's actually your regular meeting. You all have a special meeting this Thursday at 2, just the pre-conference with the moderator for a
Oh,
special
yeah.
town meeting. So it should be a quick one, but.
Is that
I'll-
Zoom only?
It's Zoom only.
Okay.
The link should be in your calendar invite. It's also posted on the agenda.
Yep.
So all planning board
Send that
members,
out.
select board members, FinCom members, and the respective staff members are gonna be at that
Yep.
meeting.
Is it live and Zoom or just
No,
Zoom?
Just
just,
Zoom.
Okay.
just Zoom,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay,
So,
thank you.
you're welcome. All right, that's all I got. Oh, no, Dave asked to push
I
that.
haven't made the phone call yet, so when you guys see my phone come up, my number, you better answer it.
I'm sending Leah and
So-
Jeff your way to
Look,
answer their
forwarding, I
question.
mean-
I just want to be clear, I was telling Howard earlier, I'm having problems with my iPhone, didn't I?
I'm on like ancillary crack committees right now, okay? And
You might be a good member.
It's-
I heard you're doing a really good job with the Washington
I
Street
love
Committee.
it. I know how to talk to them now. I've got it all figured out how to do
Well,
it.
there we go.
But
Is that you're
no,
accepting
not
this
necessarily, but I just, I mean, I don't know
Work your
what we're
magic.
doing. How many meetings do they have?
Once,
Is it once a month or something more than that?
I think it's more frequently.
See, these people love having more meetings. It's like, oh my God.
And you have to write some of the social media.
Well, clearly our board
I
likes
ain't gonna
long
be on
meetings too,
social
because we're
media,
just sitting
never.
here going like this.
What?
I would entertain a motion.
Yeah, motion to adjourn.
So, poof, sir.
All in favor?
Aye.
Just slip, Mr. Chair.